Once upon a time, there were two boys named Nobu and Kota. Nobu came from a poor family, and Kota from a rich family, but they didn't let that stop them from becoming best friends. One day, they were adventuring deep in the woods. It had gotten dark, and they were lost. So, they were relieved when they came across a house. They knocked on the door, and an old woman answered. She quickly invited them in and offered to let them spend the night at her house. A sudden light came from the living room through a slightly open door. The light shined directly on Nobu's eyes and woke him up. He went to the door and peeked through the crack. He saw the woman digging into sand in her fire pit. She planted some seeds, and almost instantaneously a plant began to grow from a tiny sprout to a fully grown crop ready for harvest. She cut the grain and began to grind it and knead it into dough. When she was finished, she let out a tiny cackle and smiled, revealing her sharp teeth. Nobu was terrified and remembered the words of his grandfather. "Be careful of the horse-eating woman. She'll feed you magic food that turns you into a horse, and then you'll be her meal." Nobu hid under his blanket and tried to think of a way to escape, but eventually fell asleep from exhaustion. By the time he woke up in the morning, Kota was already up and about to eat breakfast. Nobu threw open the doors and yelled, "Stop!" But it was too late. Kota had already eaten. The old woman ran to Nobu to try and force him to eat as well, but Kota, who was now a horse, created a distraction, and Nobu escaped, running far away from the house. Eventually, he ran into a monk and explained what had happened, then took off running again after the monk told him how to find a cure for his friend. Nobu didn't stop until he reached a field of eggplants. He slept in the field that night, waiting for the morning when he would be able to find the cure. When the morning finally came, he searched all over the field and couldn't find the cure. But just as he began to lose hope, he spotted a glimmer in the corner of his eyes and found the cure. It was a magical eggplant. Nobu quickly picked the eggplant and ran back to the forest. Meanwhile, the old woman began sharpening her knife with glee, excited to have her next meal. Nobu made it to the house and found Kota tied to a tree. Kota ate the eggplants and turned back into a human boy. By the time the old woman came outside, the boys were long gone. Running back home, they laughed together, so happy that they were now safe. When Kota's dad heard what had happened, he was very grateful and gave Nobu's poor family a large amount of land so they could be rich too. And everyone lived happily ever after.